Hey everyone, welcome back to the GoodVibes Podcast, where we spotlight bold thinkers, practitioners, and founders building new paths forward in wellness. If you're new here and this conversation adds value, consider sharing it forward. It helps us to keep building this village. Today's guest is Melody Fraser, founder of Blissful Waters Float Center in the Woodlands, Texas. Today, we're examining the common "it's just relaxation" idea and discussing, in plain language, what people often report from float sessions, where it may fit in everyday routines, and how to approach it responsibly. Let's dive in.
All right.
Hi, Melody. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Fantastic. So, Melody, the idea of floating, it often gets boiled down to a dark tank and a nap concept. What's the misconception here? What do people actually notice in their first few sessions?
Well, immediately, the first thing they notice, pain relief. That's probably like our easiest thing to help out with is pain relief. So it's always a simple one. But another thing is just when you shut off the mind and you take away all those senses, other things come up. We've had people with memories from their childhood, like thinking grandma was, she's doing cartwheels in her grandma's yard. And so it'll pull up a lot of things from your subconscious that are just hidden back there. So it's definitely a mental and physical kind of treat. But yeah, even sometimes squeaky doors, you never know what's going to come into the float. Like my favorite was recently I had a float. And I came home and I was like, okay, we need to fix all the squeaky doors in this house, because when I was in the float, that's what came out. I got woken up by my brain playing this door opening. And it was just because it was on every day when my husband would leave the house, that door squeaks, and then my brain kicking it, keeping it in there. So it helps kick some of that stuff out, and then it clarifies things. So people get a lot of clarity and pain relief in the tank.
That's interesting. So, say for somebody who feels wired at night or reactive during the day, how does that float therapy help to turn that volume down?
Well, I mean, some people, it does take time. Like if your nervous system is already so into fight or flight all the time, and you're programmed to live that way, it takes a little bit to settle down. Your body fights back. But you have cumulative effects that eventually they make you calmer. It makes you talk better. It's great for public speaking. It's great for being a mom with kids, where you're reactive. So it helps diminish that reactivity time. You're thinking through things better. It brings the alpha brainwaves to the surface.
So what shifts then do your clients report first?
They're all over the place. It's really, we have a lounge that everybody comes in after the float purposely so that you can, just sit with yourself a minute and feel the effects of it. But most people come out pretty much like, I don't know what just happened, but I liked it. And, and then like I said, pain relief, sometimes pain relief comes a few hours too, it's still doing its magic after the float, 3 to 4 hours. And then also for the mental and the positivity, that's kind of the next day. It just keeps, you have 3 to 5 days of cumulative effects after just one float. But immediately after we get, they're just relaxed. Anxiety is diminished instantly. If it's done right. Some anxiety, it takes a little more floats, but many people, their very first float, they just come out just like, what was that? I feel so good. They're in their bodies. They're balanced. We can do testing to where it actually shows the nervous system. And after a float, your nervous system is balanced. Your parasympathetic and your sympathetic are at the levels they're supposed to be. The real challenge though is keeping it there. The float can get you there, but you have to learn with continual floats. It teaches you to stay in that state.
So if a listener were to book their first float this week, what's a good, better, best way to approach the first 2 to 3 sessions?
I always say the 3 floats. The first float is an experiment or experience. You're taking in new information. And with float therapy, you really want to work into turning off senses and turning off lights, things like that. So the first one, consider it just an experience. Come in, you're learning. You want to know how the water's filtered. These are questions that come up when you're in the tank. How the water's filtered, what's in the water, how high is the water. So your brain's like, what's happening here? Then the second float, the brain's more relaxed. So the brain comes in, it's like, oh, I remember this. I get to shut down. It's like defragmenting your computer, it's like, woohoo, I'm going to get cleaned out. And then the third float, I always explain it as like a heart brain connection. That's when the whole body is in sync. And so I always, someone who truly wants to find relief through floating, I always recommend 3 floats about 5 to 7 days apart. That's ideal. And by that third float, you're hooked.
Okay, so aside from that, are there any other simple comfort tips that you always give?
Yes. Well, you definitely don't want to shave the day of your float because that's very spicy in the tank with all that salt in there. Definitely avoid caffeine. Caffeine, no alcohol. You don't want any stimulants. You just want to kind of come as you are and be relaxed. So the goal is to let go. So yeah, no caffeine, no salt. What's another good one? Come with an open mind. I was saying that's another good one. Because if you come in with pre-ideas of what it's going to be like, it's never going to be like that. It's its own. Every float is its own unique situation.
So outside of just floating, what other practices pair well with floating, and what should people avoid doing on the same day?
So floating complements lots of things. Like we partner with chiropractors. Floating takes inflammation away. It's not going to cure, say you have a herniated disc or something like that. It's going to help that by removing the inflammation. And with time, and a lot of time, that herniated disc may move back in. But we found pairing it with chiropractic work where we take the inflammation away and they do the magic of pushing everything where it needs to go and lining things up. So they're very good. And then on the mental health side of things, we pair very well with counseling, therapy, anything that needs an integration. So after people go through their therapy sessions, they can come in and they can kind of integrate in the tank and it just has a chance for everything to absorb.
What's your favorite combination?
My favorite is I love to float and then do the sauna and red light afterwards. I'm very cold natured, so when I get in the float afterwards, I'm like, ooh, I need to go warm up. And then I can go in there and then the sauna loosens the body up even more. But those two are a beautiful, they complement each other very well.
That's awesome. Many people assume busy equals productive, right? So how has float therapy shaped the way you plan your week as a founder?
Well, I float once a week, if not more, but I require a once a week float. I mean, I didn't open a float center because I wanted to make big bucks and all that. It was because I felt the results and I wanted to share it so bad. And so a float a week just keeps me balanced, keeps me my head straight, gets me more productive. If I catch myself going in circles, it's like if I color my hair different fun colors. So sometimes I do have to go 2 weeks and things like that, and I can't get in the tank because I have to let those colors set in, and it would be bad for the water. So my team can always tell when I'm at the end of my 2 weeks. I'm like, but it does. It just keeps you balanced. And I'll be like going in circles. I'll have 50 things to do, but I can't figure out where to start. And the floating just makes me knock out those 50 things a lot faster. So taking those 2 hours, hour and a half, it floats around 60 minutes. So you're looking at about an hour and a half to 2 hours of your time to put in it, depending on how some people float and go, but that's typical. But taking that time to myself impacts the rest of my week so much, and I'm just so much more productive, and creativity is rolling so much better. It's another thing I have to do, social media posts, things like that. And sometimes that creativity is like, and I'm just not there. But with the float, immediately after, I'm like, oh, I got this idea, got that idea. It's just, yeah, one time a week, mandatory for sure. And then sprinkle little extras in there when I have time.
Do you have any examples of client stories who have learned this same lesson?
Oh, I have. We'll be 7 years in December. And we have clients that have been with me since since before I even opened. They bought like the pre ones. And so, yes, I have retention is fabulous for us. Like we are very good at retaining. I even have pregnant, like moms who are on second babies who have found so much comfort while they're pregnant that they just continue to float during and not pregnant, like just their lives. So yeah, we have 3, 5, 7 year people that just float continuously once a week. Some people, so pain's really good once a week. So they tend to come in once a week to manage like arthritis. Older people with all the aches, it keeps them good for their week. Lupus, things like that. And then you have others that do it once a month. But yeah, they're very continuing. I like to start people at 1 time a month and then work them to 2 and then once a week because they feel the effects. If I start people, like some people come in gung ho and they're like, oh, I just want to get a 4 by membership and come here once a week. That's a little much in the beginning because you really do need to realize what the float's doing for you. It has so many accumulative effects. But yeah, so if I start people like that, they tend to stay with me forever.
That's awesome. All right, let's hit a myth busting round. We'll hit a few quick ones here. I'm claustrophobic. What's the response?
We haven't really had any, we've had probably in one hand the amount of real claustrophobia. In our we have cabins. We don't do the pods where they come out over you. Although a pod is actually quite big. It's just mentally people don't like the idea of something closing on them. And then there's people like me who are like, it's a blanket. But but my cabin's just open. You just open the door. So when I explain to someone that's got claustrophobia, for one thing, we have one room that has the fiber optics on the ceiling. So it looks like stars. And so it's like you're laying underneath stars and it's just infinite. So that's a really good room to start in. But if they can't, say that room's taken, some people will put a little towel by the door just so they know it's open. And then, like I said, it's about 8 foot by 10. It's 8 by 10 size of a kid's bedroom, really. So it's roomier than what people envision in their heads. So once they see it, they're like, oh, this is bigger than I thought.
Okay. Salt will wreck my skin or hair.
Look up Epsom salt and all the good things it does for your hair. Now, if you wash your hair before you float, after your float, and again the next day, you're going to have dry hair. Because if you go to the beach, it's the same thing. The salts are pulling those oils out of your hair. So you have to let the oils come back naturally. But Epsom salts fortify the hair follicles. So you actually get stronger hair and you detox your scalp. So some people are like losing hair, hormone issues. They float so that they can get their hair back, and some of that stress related as well. So no, that is a big myth though. We hear that a lot.
Okay. Isn't this just for athletes?
I wish I got all the athletes in there. Athletes are the toughest, I feel like, to get to float. They like that instant gratification. But no, it's not just for athletes. It's, I started floating for mom just because I was a reactive mother and I had kids older. And so it really helped me, like we were talking about earlier, just have that calm state of mind and not react and stuff. So it's for everybody. I haven't seen a person floating camp before.
Okay. Is the water clean?
Water is super clean. I have superior float tanks. Floating started in the 80s, maybe even before that, but 80s is when it was really hot. And when AIDS came along, it dumped it. So since then, the filtration system has been really vamped up. But ours goes through a 1 micron filter in the back, and then we have ozone gas for all the wall space and UVC for the water. And we were able to stay open during COVID because we did have the ozone gas in there, and we had to shut down some other things in the place, but people could come, our combat vets and people like that were able to come in and float and still do their therapy. So that's really clean water.
That's awesome. Okay, Melody, if you had to leave our listeners with, say, one sentence, the clearest, most important idea from this conversation, what is it?
Flow. Like, come float today. Float today. Schedule your float now. That was like 3 sentences, but
It's all right. Well, Melody, thank you. This kind of conversation, it doesn't just break down myths. It gives people, a clearer framework for experimenting responsibly with nervous system care. If you got something from today's episode, hit like and follow and drop a comment or send it to someone who's walking a similar path. That's how we expand the village. Till next time, stay strong, stay sharp, stay aligned, and keep up the good vibes. Thanks so much, Melody.